Welcome to Hockey Wiz Talks podcast. In this podcast, I'll be taking an in-depth look at the Metropolitan Division. In this podcast, I will be taking an in-depth look at the Metropolitan Division in the NHL and what their expectations are heading into this season. The Carolina Hurricanes 2025-26 roster is a fascinating blend of seasoned leadership and emerging youth. Carolina is bringing back the majority of their team from last season, including all their core players. The Canes already had a good core led by Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Seth Jarvis, Logan Stankoven, Jackson Blake, and are landing Nikolai Ehlers, one of the most sought-after free agent wingers, to round out their already dangerous top six. Carolina has always leaned on structure and a defense-first identity, and they will still have that with Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook anchoring their checking line. The Hurricanes' only major loss this offseason was defenseman Dmitry Orlov, but they quickly replaced him with K'Andre Miller, whom they acquired in a trade from the New York Rangers. Miller will form an elite shutdown pair alongside Jacob Slavin, who will slide to right D. Rookie defenseman and highly hyped prospect Alexander Nikishin should play a top 4 role on the team this year. Frederik Andersen was brought back on a 1-year deal. He and Peter Kochetkov will continue to tandem in net for Carolina. Rod Brindamore's system remains one of the most structured and resilient. This makes Carolina a threat to once again be a top 3 seed in their division. Questions for the 25-26 season. 1. Their goaltending rotation. Kochetkov and Andersen will likely share goaltending duties, with Andersen taking marquee matchups and Kochetkov poised to be the future number 1. 2. How will their new-look power play look? Expect tweaks to the top unit, possibly involving Ehlers and newcomer Nikishin to boost conversion rates. 3. Can K'Andre Miller be a true top pair defenseman? He was brought over from the New York Rangers in a sign-in trade and signed an 8-year $60 million extension. He is expected to be paired alongside Jacob Slavin. If he can form a true elite shutdown pair along with Slavin, that would be amazing. But if not, this will be a steep price for a second pair defenseman. 4. Who will be the second-line center? Right now, Seth Jarvis is projected to be the second-line center alongside Jackson Blake and Taylor Hall. However, Jarvis doesn't have much NHL experience playing center. If Jarvis doesn't pan out there, what would they do? My prediction is that the Carolina Hurricanes finish first in the Metropolitan Division. The Columbus Blue Jackets are balancing a youth movement with veteran anchors as they celebrate their 25th NHL season. Head coach Dean Evason, who is known for structure and youth development, could help Columbus take the next step, as Columbus has several players poised to take the leap into stardom. Third overall pick in 2023, Adam Fantilli, Kent Johnson, and Kirill Marchenko could form a dynamic top line by midseason. This would push Sean Monahan to center a second line alongside Dmitry Voronkov and Boone Jenner. Columbus acquired Charlie Coyle and Miles Wood from Colorado to bolster their scoring depth, and Isaac Ludestrom was brought in to replace Sean Kuraly on the fourth line. Yegor Chinakhov has been in the midst of trade rumors. Expect him to be moved during the season. On defense, Zach Werenski will be paired alongside Dante Fabro, who was brought back in free agency, as was Ivan Provorov, who signed a lucrative 7-year $59.5 million contract to stay in Columbus. Damon Severson has been a name that has popped up on the trade block, but it will be tough to move his contract, which pays him $6.25 million AAV over the next 6 years. The biggest weakness for this team has to be goaltending, and the future of Elvis Merzlikins is very much up in the air. Jet Greaves is expected to be the starter this season, leaving Merzlikins either as the 1B or trade bait. The pipeline is maturing, and the fan base is hungry to have some playoff success. Could they finally sneak into the playoffs? Questions for 25-26 season. 1. Can Werenski continue his dominance? Zach Werenski led the team with 82 points last season, a staggering total for a defenseman. He's not just the statistical backbone, but the symbolic leader of a franchise trying to redefine itself. His play anchors both the power play and the team identity. 2. Are the young players ready to take the leap? Adam Fantilli, Kent Johnson, and Kirill Marchenko form a dynamic core and all have star potential. Denton Matvichuk emerged as a dominant rookie defenseman. 3. What happens with Elvis Merzlikins? With Jet Greaves projected to be the starter, Merzlikins' future is up in the air. Merzlikins has 2 years left on his contract with a 10-team no-trade clause. Teams like Edmonton have been mentioned, but Columbus would have to retain a healthy portion of his salary to make the deal work. 4. Will Yegor Chinakhov get traded? Chinakhov has made it clear that he is unhappy with his playing time and requested a trade during the summer. At $2.1 million AAV, he would be a low-cost middle six winger with upside and will be a RFA in 2026. He could be a valuable low-cost asset for a contending team. My prediction for the Blue Jackets is that they finish 5th in the Metropolitan Division. And now a word from our sponsor. Check out my scouting blog at HockeyWiz777scouting.com. Listen to my scouting blog podcast on podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/HockeyWiz777scouting. After a frustrating first round exit last season, the New Jersey Devils are poised for a redemption run in the 25-26 season. Their top 6, including Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Nico Hischier, and Timo Meier, form one of the NHL's most dynamic forward cores. Arsenij Griciuk will be joining the team this season following a near point-per-game season with SKA St. Petersburg of the KHL. New Jersey also added Connor Brown and Evgeny Dadonov in free agency, adding scoring depth. While New Jersey had to move on from Erik Haula due to cap constraints, they retained Cody Glass to be their fourth-line center. Dougie Hamilton is healthy again, and Simon Nemec is finally poised to break out, which makes their defense potentially one of the deepest in the division. The Devils still need to lock up Luke Hughes, who is a major part of their team, but I have no doubt that it will get done because he is an essential part of their core, and they can just long-term IR Jonathan Kovacevic to free up cap space. Jacob Markstrom is locked in as the starting goalie, with Jake Allen being the 1B after re-signing with the team for another 5 years. The biggest question mark with this team is health and durability. As the core players have been plagued by injuries in recent years, if they remain healthy, New Jersey should be a top 3 seed in the division. Questions for the 25-26 season. 1. Can their core players stay healthy? Jack Hughes missed 20 games and the entire playoffs last season, yet he posted 70 points in 62 games. Jesper Bratt had shoulder surgery in May, but is expected to be back for camp. Dougie Hamilton, Luke Hughes, and Brendan Dillon all missed time in the playoffs due to injury. 2. How stable is their goaltending rotation? Jacob Markstrom is the starter, but his form has fluctuated. Jake Allen was signed to a 5-year deal to provide veteran backup support. This tandem could be elite when on, but also could be a liability when they falter. Goaltending will define their ceiling. 3. Are the young players ready to break out? Simon Nemec, the second overall pick from 2022, could be poised for a breakout season after a solid postseason run. Dawson Mercer will be the third-line center, and it could unlock his two-way game, allowing him to thrive as a shutdown guy rather than one of their primary scorers. Arsenij Griciuk will join the team from the KHL, but there could be an adjustment period. 4. Do they have enough secondary scoring? While their top 6 has proven to be plenty productive, they lacked secondary scoring last season, which is why they added the newcomer Griciuk along with Connor Brown and Evgeny Dadonov. But will this be enough? My prediction for the New Jersey Devils is that they finish 3rd in the Metropolitan Division. This is a transitional year for the New York Islanders with a new GM in Matthew Darche, who replaces Lou Lamoriello, a retooled prospect pipeline, and a roster trying to stay competitive while building for the future. Matt Barzal and Bo Horvat anchor their top 6. Barzal is finally healthy again and could have a bounce-back year. Anders Lee and Kyle Palmieri are aging and past their prime, but they are still capable of putting up 20-plus goals. Jonathan Drouin was brought in to improve their top 6 firepower. This pushes Anthony Duclair to the third line. The Islanders had the first overall pick in the 2025 draft and selected Matthew Schaefer. He will start on the third D pair and second power play unit and could end up playing on the top pair by the end of the season. He will be joining the D corps, which features Ryan Pulock, Adam Pelech, Tony DeAngelo, and Scott Mayfield. Both Noah Dobson and Alexander Romanov were RFAs this offseason, and while the Isles eventually locked up Romanov long-term, they had to trade Noah Dobson to Montreal before the draft. Ilya Sorokin remains elite, projected for 30 wins despite a dip in save percentage. If the Islanders are to make a playoff push, Sorokin has to stand on his head. This season for the New York Islanders is rich with symbolic transitions, strategic recalibrations, and emotional returns. Questions for the 25-26 season. 1. How will the new era under GM Matthew Darche look? Darche's arrival brings a Tampa-style emphasis on speed, youth, and cap flexibility. His first major move was trading Noah Dobson for picks and prospects, a bold move to reset the decor. Expect more moves like this that prioritize long-term upside over short-term patchwork. 2. Ilya Sorokin's uncertain future. Ilya Sorokin remains the team's most valuable asset, but his contract status and age at 30 raised questions about whether he fits the rebuild timeline. If the team falters early, trade speculations will intensify, especially with contenders needing elite goaltending. 3. Development of young players. 2025 first overall pick Matthew Schaefer will make his debut this season. First round pick in 2024, Calum Ritchie, is expected to take on middle six duties and power play reps. These two represent the emotional and strategic future of the franchise. 4. Patrick Waugh's tactical evolution. Patrick Waugh will enter his second full season as head coach, balancing development with competitiveness. Watch for tactical tweaks, more aggressive forechecking, flexible D pairings, and willingness to experiment with young talent. My prediction for the New York Islanders is that they finish 7th in the Metropolitan Division. To say that the 2024-25 season for the New York Rangers was a disappointment would be an understatement, because they had sky-high expectations. However, heading into the 25-26 season, the scenario is entirely different, with the Rangers expected to be in the hunt, but not expected to be early season favorites. GM Chris Drury shook up the bench, replacing Coach Peter Laviolette with Mike Sullivan, and bringing back David Quinn as an assistant coach to revitalize the power play. This signals a philosophical shift towards being more structural and having more accountability, and a return to identity-driven hockey. The New York Rangers have a pretty dominant top line with Artemi Panarin, Vincent Trocheck, and Alexis Lafreniere. After a mid-season trade from Vancouver, JT Miller is projected to hit 82 points this season. He is expected to center a line with Mika Zibanejad and Will Cooley. Young wingers Gabe Perreault and Brendan Othmann are expected to make contributions to the team. The question is how much. After the top 6, the bottom 6 of the Rangers is pretty weak unless the young wingers prove they are here to stay. Adam Fox anchors the Rangers' decor, and despite a disappointing season, he is still among the league's best. Joining Fox on the top pair is the newly signed free agent acquisition Vladislav Gavrikov, who signed a massive 7-year, $49 million contract. The Rangers have to find a way to overcome the loss of Keandre Miller, who was traded away to the Carolina Hurricanes due to cap constraints. For now, Carson Soucy pairs with Will Borgen on the second pair, and Braden Schneider will pair with Urho Vakanainen on the third pair. Although expect rookie defensemen like Scott Morrow to make a push to make the roster. After a modest 27-win season, Igor Shesterkin is projected to have a bounce-back season with an improved defensive structure and fewer higher danger chances. There's a huge chance he'll return to elite form. The Rangers are walking a tightrope with aging stars for relevance and a fan base hungry for relevance. Questions for 25-26 season. 1. Can Igor Shesterkin bounce back? After a modest 27-win season, Igor Shesterkin has to prove he can still perform at a Vezina Trophy form, especially after his new contract. The Rangers are paying Shesterkin $11.5 million AAV for the next 8 seasons. If he cannot bounce back, the Rangers are in trouble. 2. Panarin's contract year drama. Artemi Panarin is in the final year of his deal and is still producing at a very high level. If the Rangers stumble early, trade rumors will swirl. 3. Can Adam Fox regain his Norris form? Fox had a dip last season, but with Vladislav Gavrikov now beside him, he's poised to shine again. His two-way play and power play quarterbacking could push him back into Norris contention. 4. Are the young players ready? Gabe Perreault and Brennan Othmann are both very highly hyped prospects, but are they NHL ready? If not, the Rangers' bottom 6 will be very weak. My prediction is that the New York Rangers finish 4th in the Metropolitan Division. Check out my hockey blog at hockeywiztalkshockey.blogspot.com. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at hockeywiz777. The 25-26 season is a fascinating pivot point for the Philadelphia Flyers. The roster is infused with high upside talent, but the system is still stabilizing under new head coach Rick Tocchet. The Philadelphia Flyers could very well be the sleeper team this season, but it would depend on how well some of their new acquisitions fit in, and if Matvei Michkov levels up and takes his game to another level. Matvei Michkov, Trevor Zegras, and Travis Konecny form a dominant top line. Trevor Zegras was acquired in a deal that included Ryan Poehling and 2 draft picks. The acquisition of Zegras gives the Flyers potentially one of the most lethal first lines in the division. The second line is listed as the third line, with Noah Cates centering Ty Forrester and Bobby Brink. They're all rising young studs and have shown improvements every year. This pushes Sean Couturier to the third line with Owen Tippett and Christian Dvorak. Philly's defense remains unchanged from last season, although with Rasmus Ristolainen expected to miss some time early this season. Expect a young defenseman like Jamie Drysdale or Emil Andre to step up. Philly already had Sam Ersson and Ivan Fedotov as their goalies, but they also added Dan Vladar in free agency to the rotation. This will make Fedotov the third goalie. The Flyers are the ultimate boom or bust team. If players gel under Tocchet and players stay healthy, they could be in the wildcard race. Questions for the 25-26 season. 1. Can Matvei Michkov be a superstar? After a strong finish to last season, Michkov enters the 25-26 season poised to break out as a superstar. His chemistry with Konecny was electric towards the end of last season. Michkov has 40-plus goal and 80-plus point potential. The question is how quickly he can get there. 2. Rick Tocchet's system versus chaos. Rick Tocchet's system brings structure, discipline, and defensive accountability. How well will this mesh with the Flyers' improvisational youth? 3. How well will Trevor Zegras fit under Rick Tocchet? Trevor Zegras is expected to be the Flyers' first-line center, joining Matvei Michkov and Travis Konecny. Zegras has been wanting to play center. The question is he dependable enough defensively to be a first-line center? The acquisition is viewed as a high-risk, high-reward move. 4. Is the defense good enough? Cam York and Jamie Drysdale are promising, but the blue line lacks a true shutdown anchor. Rasmus Ristolainen will miss some time, leaving a massive hole on the blue line. My prediction for the Philadelphia Flyers is that they finish 5th in the Metropolitan Division. This year marks a sobering shift of philosophy for the Pittsburgh Penguins during the Crosby-Malkin era, from perennial contenders to a full-on rebuild, with Sidney Crosby still anchoring the emotional core. GM Kyle Dubas is focused on asset accumulation, not short-term wins. Expect prospects like Rutger McGroarty, Owen Pickering, and Veli Koivunen to get extended looks. Crosby and Malkin remain for now. Sidney Crosby is locked up for another 2 years, but if Evgeny Malkin's contract expires at the end of this season, he could be a player who gets shopped at the deadline, so he can get one last run at a cup. 2 more players who are still excellent players that a contender could look to add is Rickard Rakell and Brian Rust. Both could land Pittsburgh assets to help them rebuild. Erik Karlsson is another name who's been trending in trade talks the entire offseason, and it makes sense for Pittsburgh to trade him if they are going to full-on rebuild, as he is probably their best trade asset, especially if Pittsburgh retains salary. Tristan Jarry remains on the team for now, but expect Pittsburgh to move on from him as they move forward with Sivils and Bloomquist, 2 young netminders. Every team that is in rebuild mode now has one common goal: to land Gavin McKenna, the consensus first overall pick in 2026. If Pittsburgh is able to win the draft lottery, it would be a magical transition from one generational prospect to another. This year marks a sobering shift of philosophy for the Pittsburgh Penguins during the Crosby-Malkin era, from perennial contenders to a full-on rebuild, with Sidney Crosby still anchoring the emotional core. GM Kyle Dubas is focused on asset accumulation, not short-term wins. Expect prospects like Rutger McGroarty, Owen Pickering, and Veli Koivunen to get extended looks. Crosby and Malkin remain for now. Sidney Crosby is locked up for another 2 years, but if Evgeny Malkin's contract expires at the end of this season, he could be a player who gets shopped at the deadline, so he can get one last run at a cup. 2 more players who are still excellent players that a contender could look to add is Rickard Rakell and Brian Rust. Both could land Pittsburgh assets to help them rebuild. Erik Karlsson is another name who's been trending in trade talks the entire offseason, and it makes sense for Pittsburgh to trade him if they are going to full-on rebuild, as he is probably their best trade asset, especially if Pittsburgh retains salary. Tristan Jarry remains on the team for now, but expect Pittsburgh to move on from him as they move forward with Sivils and Bloomquist, 2 young netminders. Every team that is in rebuild mode now has one common goal: to land Gavin McKenna, the consensus first overall pick in 2026. If Pittsburgh is able to win the draft lottery, it would be a magical transition from one generational prospect to another. This season marks the 50th season of the Washington Capitals franchise, and they are coming off a first-round playoff win and a second-round exit to Carolina. Washington has retooled nicely by drafting well the past few seasons and surrounding Alex Ovechkin and John Carlson, who are both in the twilight of their careers, with fresh young talent who will be able to take the reins when they are gone. Joining Ovechkin on the top line is the 3rd overall pick from 2015, Dylan Strome, and Alexei Protas, who had a breakout season last season with 30 goals. Pierre-Luc Dubois centers a solid second line with Connor McMichael and Tom Wilson on his wings. This makes a solid and stable top 6. The 3rd line will feature Ryan Leonard and Anthony Beauvillier. Joining them on that line will be Hendrix Lapierre or Ivan Miroshnichenko. Washington has excellent defensive depth with 3 good reliable D pairs with the likes of Jacob Chichurin, John Carlson, Rasmus Sandin, Matt Roy, Martin Faravari, and Trevor Van Riemsdyk, offering structure and mobility. Washington has the same goaltending tandem as last season with Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren, with Thompson slated to start 60% of games. Return nearly their entire roster from a 51-win season, continuity could be their secret weapon. Questions for the 25-26 season. 1. How many goals will Alex Ovechkin score? Last season, the Great 8 passed the Great 1's record of 892 goals. Now sitting at 897 goals, it won't take long before he reaches 900. Expect legacy tributes, alumni nights, and civic pride woven into the schedule. 2. Youth versus legacy. McMichael, Protas, Leonard, and Miroshnichenko are emerging stars, but they're still playing alongside Ovi, Carlson, and Wilson. This season is a generational handoff in real time. 3. Will Ivan Miroshnichenko or Hendrix Lapierre make the jump? Lapierre was drafted 22nd overall in 2020, Miroshnichenko 20th overall in 2022. Miroshnichenko is expected to push for a full-time NHL spot, likely on the 3rd line with second power play time. Lapierre may start in Hershey, but a top call-up candidate if injuries hit the middle 6. He could slot in as a 3rd line center with offensive upside. 4. Is Logan Thompson a full-time starter? Thompson and Lindgren split starts almost 50-50 last season, with Thompson starting 43 games and Lindgren starting 39. Thompson signed a 6-year extension worth $5.85 million AAV. He needs to prove he is worth this contract. My prediction is that the Washington Capitals finish 2nd in the Metropolitan Division. Listen to Hockey Wiz Talks podcast on Podbean and Spotify. Check out my travel channel at youtube.com/HockeyWizTravels. The Metropolitan Division has fallen on hard times, which has seen the division producing several of the weakest teams in the entire league. There are only 2 to 3 teams I would consider contenders, with another 2 that potentially could be wildcard teams, but will likely fall off because of how good teams are in the Atlantic. In my next podcast, I'll be taking an in-depth look at Atlantic Division teams.